Welcome back to Latin Nation, representing your generation. I'm Jose.
And I'm Desi. Up next, we shed some light on Latinos in comic books.
From Spider-Man to Daredevil, the multi-million-dollar industry has seen its fair share of Latino contributions.
And today, studios like New York's Somos Arte are showcasing their talents to help tell their stories.
New York's Somos Arte studio creates and celebrates Latino art through multiple platforms. In exhibits like Marvelous Color, the company examines Latino artists and the diversity of legendary characters in comic books throughout the decades.
Our studio decided to produce this exhibition, Marvelous Color, as an opportunity to celebrate the amazing art that many artists have been contributing to this comic book industry for many years.
The beautiful thing about comic book superheroes is that, as many people have said before, they're modern-day mythology. We can tell all sorts of stories, grand epics, tiny personal stories, and Latinos have been contributing to comics for 40 years. They bring not only their sensibilities, but the way they live a life story to the work. It's a really extraordinary thing to get a letter from someone who has said, I touched them in a certain way, through a character who wears a cape or shoots beams out of their eyes, and yet somehow through all of that has found a story that has touched them in a profound way.
For many years, Latinos have been participating in the industry as artists, as colorists, as writers. As far back even as the 1970s, George Perez, who is a native New Yorker, amazing illustrator, to as recent as Joe Quesada, who's the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. You have artists like Leonardo Manco from Argentina, Humberto Ramos, who is actually from Mexico, or Eduardo Rizzo, who's also from Argentina, or Will Conrad, or Ed Benes, who are both from Brazil.
I think there is a necessity for all kinds of heroes, heroes who represent people from all walks of life. There's no better way to make stories connect with a swath of people than to represent those people in your tales. When we see a character introduced now who is a minority or who is a woman who is gay, often that character becomes the vessel for an entire community's hopes and dreams for their representation. One of those characters is Spider-Man 2099. He's a sort of reimagined version of Spider-Man 100 years from now. And that character is Mexican, and his supporting cast is mostly Mexican.
It gives me a lot of pleasure to know that there is a lot of Latinos that are contributing to a lot of the stories and a lot of the characters that we read and love so much. When I was a child growing up, we looked at comic books and would see the notes, and most of the time we would see names that didn't always reflect us. Nowadays, there's so many names that reflect our heritage. Even though we don't see our faces, seeing our names, there's a lot of power in that. We don't always have to necessarily be the content, but if we find ourselves in a position that we can actually control and create the media, that in and of itself is empowering. For young Latinos in the United States especially, this is the best time to be a young artist, because there's so many resources out there that we can create our own art, and as a result have our art noticed by others. And when our art is noticed by others, then we are truly making an impact in the world.
Stay tuned. What happens when you blend diverse musical backgrounds with modern Latin music? Maleco Collective, up next on Latin Nation.